Hello class, and today we're going to be learning about solving linear equations. So when solving linear equations, we're just going to be using the main addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division properties of equality, which basically means it's possible to add, subtract, multiply, and divide an equal quantity to both sides of an equation. So we're just going to be using that when we're going about doing and solving these equations. We also have to remember our inverse operations. So for example, one operation is addition, so the inverse operation is subtraction, or the regular operation subtraction. Inverse is addition, and multiplication would be division for the inverse, and then division operation would be multiplication for the inverse of that. So today we're going to go over a few equations. We're going to do a couple one-step, two-step, multi-steps, and then equations with variables on both sides. And that is what we're going to do today. All right, so let's get started. Okay, so now we're going to be going over two-step equations, which is just having an extra step from a one-step equation. Nothing, not a big deal. We're going to get through this. All right, so don't forget to draw the line down right here. So typically whatever is attached to x will go last. So we have a 4 times x plus 4 equals 20. So first step, we're going to do the inverse of plus 4 here. So the inverse of plus 4 is subtracting 4. So minus 4, and then minus 4 on the other side. All right, these guys cancel out. And 20 minus 4, 16. So we have 4x equals 16. And of course the inverse of multiplying is dividing, so we're going to divide 4, and we get 1 there, and then divide 4 here, so then we get x equals 4, because 16 divided by 4 is 4. It's simple enough. And of course, if you want to double check, make sure that you got the right answer, you just plug the 4 back in to the x. So we have 4x, which is 4 times 4 plus 4 equals 20. All right, and if we remember our GIMDOS rules, we'll obviously do the grouping, or in this case, multiplication, I suppose. So 4 times 4, 16, plus 4 equals 20. So 16 plus 4, that's 20. And 20 does in fact equal 20. So we got that one right. All right, so on to our next two-step equation. We have x minus 2 divided by 5 equals 1. Now I know this can look a little intimidating, however it is far from it. So like I said, whatever is attached to x is going to remain last. So we have x minus 2 divided by 5 equals 1. So this 5 is not technically attached to the x directly. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply it by 5. Right? And then, you know, these 5s cancel out here. Don't forget to multiply 5 on the other side. Okay? So now we have x minus 2 equals 5. And then we're just back down to a simple one-step equation. So the inverse operation of subtracting 2 is adding 2. So we're just going to add 2, and add 2. All right, and then x should equal 7. So we're going to go back and plug this one in just to make double sure that we're right. So we just replace the x here in x minus 2 over 5 with a 7. So we have 7 minus 2 divided by 5 equals 1. All right, and 7 minus 2, that's 5, divided by 5, sorry, my handwriting's kind of getting a little crazy, equals 1. And we already know that any number divided by that same number is going to equal 1, so we have 1 equals 1, which is correct. Okay, so now we're moving into multi-step equations, which sound, again, the more equations we add, the more harder it seems, but again, all we're doing is the exact same thing. We're just going to go over the basic rules of thumb to remember when doing multi-step equations. To combine like terms, use reciprocals when necessary. apply the distributive property when necessary, and to use the inverse operations, again, when necessary. All right, so we're going to be going down to our first problem here. I can already see that we have like terms on the one side here. Let me draw that. So we have 5x plus 5x. So all you're doing there is just like, again, combining like terms. So it's like adding 5 plus 5, which is 10 with the x attached to it. So we have 10x and then a negative 4 plus this 10x, which equals 16. All right, and then we're just down to a two-step equation. All right, so then we're just going to add 4 here and add 4 on the other side as well. All right, these 4's cancel here, and then we are left with 16 plus 4 on this side, which equals 20, and then ultimately we're still left with that 10x on this side, which equals 20. And since we are multiplying 10 times x here, we will be using the inverse operation, which is dividing by 10. These 10's cancel, divide by 10 over here, and we get x equals 10 on this side. All right, so now I'm going to be moving on to something a little more challenging. So what we have here is 1/2 times this group of negative 2 plus 2x in group that equals 8. So we could use the distributive property here and, you know, multiply the half times the negative 2 and the positive 2x here, and, you know, be all fine and dandy. However, I'm going to show you guys a little bit of a shortcut. So technically we are multiplying this 1/2 to this group, so therefore we can do the inverse operation of dividing that. So how we do that here is we act like we're going to be doing the inverse here. So we're multiplying. All right, so we're going to be moving on to a little more challenging of a problem here, but not too crazy. So I have 1/2 times negative 2 plus 2x, and that equals 8. So I could multiply the 1/2 times negative 2 plus 2x, and it'd be great. And it's pretty simple too. However, we're not going to do that. We're going to use the reciprocal. As you recall in our step 2, if we have the option to use reciprocal, it is cool to do that. So basically, when looking at this 1/2 times negative 2 plus 2x, that's honestly, you could just rewrite it as 1 times negative 2 plus 2x divided by 2. That's honestly all that is. But if we write the reciprocal, which is just 2 divided by 1, and you're multiplying that, you just do that to the other side over here, times 8. So we got 2 divided by 1, multiply that. So of course these here cancel out, so no more of these. And then honestly, 8 times 2 over 1 is just 8 times 2, which is just 16. And then we're not done on this side yet, so we have negative 2 plus 2x still. And we're gonna, this is down to a two-step equation, so we're just gonna add 2, and then add 2 on this side, go across like that, and then we get 18 over here, and then 2x equals 18, then we divide by 2, running out of room, sorry about that. 18 divided by 2 is just simply 9, so x equals 9. All right, and the last equation that we'll be going over are equations with variables on both sides. However, I'm going to go over just a few rules of thumb to keep in mind when doing these equations, just because they can look a little scary, but they're actually quite simple once you break it down. All right, so the first one, use the distributive property to remove any grouping symbols. So just, you see a parentheses, you just multiply it out, or however it works out. That's all that means. So simplify the expression on each side of the equation. We already know that. We're just going through, you know, whatever you do to one side, you do have to do to the other. That's just basically what that's saying. Use properties of equality to collect the variable terms on one side of the equation and the constant terms on the other side of the equation. So, you know, that's basically making sure that we're using the properties of equality properly. which is just whatever, like again, whatever you do to one side, do to the other. Use properties of equality to solve for the variable. We went over that one. Check your solution in the original equation. I can't stress this enough, because if you want to make sure that you got the right answer to the equation, just go back and check your work so you can make sure that you got those right. All right. So we're going to go over one scary looking equation over here. I know it's pretty scary, it's long, but it's not that threatening. All right, so we have 20x minus 7x equals 5, parentheses times 2 minus 2x, parentheses minus x minus 2 in the parentheses. All right, so let's get started. Alrighty, so where to begin? I know it's a pretty big equation. So remember, use the distributive property to remove any grouping symbols. So we have actually two groups over here. So let's start with this one right here. So all we're doing is just distributing this 5 to both of these 2's here. So we got 5 times 2, that's 10. And then 5 times 2x, that's just minus 10x there. All right, we got 1. And I know some of you are going to look at this like, well, there's no number here, so what are we doing? Well, technically this subtraction sign, it's like having a negative 1 there. So we're going to change this negative 1 here and here. So instead of it being x minus 2, it'll be minus x plus 2. Because that minus sign, like we said, is just like a negative 1. So you're just making it the reciprocal. All right, so let's get back to the equation here. So all we have to do is combine like terms in this little area here. So we got the x's here, and then the regular numbers here. So we'll start with the regular numbers. We got 10 plus 2, so that's just 12. And then we have a negative 10x minus x, so that's just like saying 1x. So we have a negative 11x. All right, so then we go over to the other side here. Nothing, well, we can combine like terms here. So we have 20x minus 7x. Anybody want to know what that is? 13x. It's just like subtracting 20 minus 7. So we're just going to bring that down here. Almost forgot the 13. 13x. All right, and we are almost there. So we want to make sure that the variables are on the same side here. So we're going to add 11x to 13x here. All right. Add 11x. Add 11x. Alrighty, these guys cancel, and we got 13 plus 11, that equals 24x. Alrighty, and then this equals 12, because we still have the 12 on the other side. Okay, so then you're probably wondering what we do next. Well, we divide, right? Because we're multiplying 24x, we're going to use that inverse property, and that's dividing. So we divide 24 over here. All right. So then we have x equals 12 over 24, but that can actually be simplified because we have two common factors in here. And you want to know what those two common factors are? They are 12. So we can, how many times does 12 go into 24? Well, twice, and it goes into 12 once. So this just simply simplifies to 1/2. Therefore, x equals 1/2. All right, class, I hope you learned something about equations and being able to solve the different kinds of equations today. I hope you enjoy your weekend, and don't forget to do your homework, and just have a good day. All right, bye.